Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. It is Tuesday, so it is our Tuesday night live program. Hope everybody that decides to join us this evening is having a wonderful day. It's hard to believe that it is, December 9th already? My gosh, the year is almost over. It's unbelievable. But lots of things going on in the legal community, lots of things going on as it relates to criminal cases that we've been following. And thank you all for joining us tonight so we can talk about a couple of those things. All right. For those who haven't joined us before, my name is Scott Reich. This is Crime Talk. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney, been doing it for 30 years here in the great state of Colorado, but I've handled cases all over the country in federal courts, just about every jurisdiction, every county here in the state of Colorado. And like I said, I've handled cases, let's see here, Oklahoma, Wyoming, South Dakota, New Mexico, South Carolina, Pennsylvania. I think that's it. Federal cases. I've done military cases as well, both as obviously on active duty and then as a private attorney, handled several cases as well on military jurisdictions. So the bottom line is there's a lot of people out there, and you can listen to just about anybody you want. That's what a beautiful thing about America. You can listen to anything you want. People can say just about anything they want, but we try to bring it to you as straightforward as possible. We don't like to sit around and, what about this? What if we speculate about that? Yeah, that doesn't do anybody a whole lot of good. Yeah, maybe it creates some clickbait kind of thing, I guess. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it's garbage. All right? People want answers. People want to know how cases are going to ultimately turn out. And since I have literally tried just about every kind of case that you could possibly imagine, yes, I've done the worst of the worst. You name it, I've probably handled that case. Okay? Probably taken it to trial. Maybe won one at trial. Maybe lost it at trial as well. I'll tell you, I don't win all my cases. Sometimes, I'd like to think I'm pretty good, but sometimes the facts, you can't ignore the facts. Now, we jokingly say, why let the facts get in the way of a great defense? Well, you can't. You can joke about that, but you can't ignore the bad facts, because guess what? The prosecution is going to just beat you over the head with those bad facts over and over again. And if you don't have a good explanation for those, guess what? Your client is going to get convicted. So hopefully, as a good attorney, you've consulted your client. Sometimes there is no choice but to go to trial. There is no offer. Sometimes the offer sucks so bad, and you're like, well, my client can get that by going to trial and losing. And therefore, I am going to give you the pleasure, Mr. or Miss Prosecutor, to crawl over glass to get that conviction for my client. Okay? We love good lawyering on all sides, prosecution and defense. We like to see good lawyering go on. Good lawyering is good for everybody. Obviously, from the defense, you want to make sure the defense is zealous. You want them to have effective assistance of counsel, guaranteeing their right to effective assistance of counsel under the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Holding the government to their burden of proof, that's great. And if the jury says you, Mr. Prosecutor or Miss Prosecutor, you did not convince us to each and every element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt, it was our solemn oath and obligation to say not guilty. And on the other hand, if the prosecution does fulfill their burden, the heavy burden, which they take on with a sense of duty and honor, and they fulfill that obligation to the jury and to the court. Guess what? It is the jury's solemn oath and obligation to say guilty. All right. Then, of course, if the defendant gets convicted, they get to appeal to a higher court, not just because they didn't like the decision, but they believe that some legal error was made, some decision by the judge was made that resulted in an unfair trial, and therefore they ask to get to do it over again. Maybe some evidence stays out. Maybe the appellate court say, yeah, none of that evidence should have come in, and therefore, the evidence is gutted for the prosecution and they can't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And maybe they are required to, not go forward with their case. Or maybe they say, okay, fine, let's go do it again. Or sometimes if you have a client that's just really, really a bad person and nobody likes him, the court doesn't like him, the prosecution, the jury didn't like him, but he may have some really good issues, then you got the old SOB rule, right? You won't find that in any law book anywhere. It's an unwritten rule where people will tell you, the Court of Appeals will tell you, although there was error, in light of the overwhelming evidence, and that's code for saying your client is so guilty, he's an SOB. Although there was error, we find it harmless, and therefore judgment of conviction affirmed. All right. Then, of course, they can go to the higher court. But you may say, why do I bring that up tonight? Because what do we want to talk about? A couple of things. We want to talk about the Luigi Mangione case, right? A lot of interesting issues going on in the Luigi Mangione case because motions hearings are taking place in New York State Court. They call their lower court, their trial court, the Supreme Court there. But these are motions that will have some ripple effect, not only in the federal court when they get to the motions phase. And coincidentally, today was the date, the 1-year anniversary that he got arrested. December 9th of last year, he got arrested at the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And we got the video. We'll show it to you in a second when we start talking about that. And the reason we want to talk about that is because it is the motions hearing. Motions hearings are the hearings to establish what evidence goes on in a case. It is and can be a watershed moment in that particular case. Now, we know in the Luigi Mangione case, obviously he's accused of killing the CEO, Bryan Thompson, the UnitedHealthcare CEO out in that Manhattan street when he was shot in the back multiple times. And then a person that, may or may not be Luigi Mangione, he's entitled to the presumption of innocence, skedaddles off into the park, gets away. And about a week later, he contact is made by the Altoona police there in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's. And so the police, doing what police do when they get a call, they're like, hey, do I know you? Can I get your ID? And of course, Mangione gives the police a fake ID. So that's a crime. It's a crime to have a fake ID. It's a crime to give the false information to the police officer. Ooh, right. So they could be arrested at that point. So what then are they going to do? Even though once they confirm he's Mangione, right? The issue is what is in this little black bag. Now, like I said, lots of interesting issues going on there. We pull out our pocket constitution, although I don't know if you're like me, you have multiple pocket constitutions and, the rules of evidence, right? But think about it, ladies and gentlemen. This one little phrase in the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, can't talk. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized, right? So what does that have to do with Luigi Mangione? Well, he obviously was seized. There was an arrest warrant for him, right? He was a suspect. So the question is did they have the right to ultimately seize him? Let me take a quick break. Frank, the package has arrived. All right. Excuse me. Very important package has arrived, also known as supper, which I will eat after the program. But Frank, the hardest working man in show business, he likes to eat, at a reasonable hour. So anyway, Fourth Amendment, right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. So Luigi Mangione, and we'll bring you the video here in a second. We can walk through it. He's sitting in the back little corner of the McDonald's, just minding his own business, wearing his little mask, right? Cops come in. They got a tip. We think it's Mangione. Do you think it's Mangione? I don't know. Could be Mangione. They go up. Hey, who are you? He gives the name of John something, right? And ultimately, they run his name. They find out it's not really him, right? That's not the name that he gave. I just want to make sure I get the name that he gave to give it correctly. He gives a New Jersey ID as Mark Rosario. That's the name that he gives to the cops. So he's lied, committed an offense right there. He could be basically arrested for that, right? So what are they going to do with his little black bag sitting next to him? Now, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what I love about constitutional law, right? And if you're going to have any interest in criminal law, you're going to have an interest in what's going on, you got to study the Constitution, because the rules of the game in all criminal cases come from the Constitution, right? These aren't technicalities. These are not legal loopholes. These are the founding fathers' rules to play by, okay? And think about it. The first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, this is like such good stuff, right? How many of them deal with criminal law? Well, Fourth Amendment, right? Unlawful searches and seizures. Fifth Amendment, right to self-incrimination. Double jeopardy. That's great. Right to, you have to be charged via indictment. Can't be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, right? We always talk about due process. Fifth Amendment. Sixth Amendment, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury in the state and the district where the crime has been committed, right? To have a compulsory process for obtaining witnesses. That's the right to subpoena people. Criminal defense, right? And obviously the effective assistance of counsel. Seventh Amendment, not applicable. That has to do with right to trials for that. Eighth Amendment, right? Excessive bail. That's significant. So, I mean, my gosh, a good chunk of the Bill of Rights has to do with everything as it relates to criminal law, because remember, the founding fathers weren't so keen on that king guy doing whatever he wanted, right? They didn't like people coming in and searching their place or seeing what's in their luggage in their backpack, right? The king didn't like you. Oh, we're going to search around here. I'm not really sure what you did, but we're going to go ahead and search it. We'll figure it out when we find it, but we'll know it when we see it. Then they can't do that. The king then sends you off to the gallows. Maybe we'll charge you. Maybe we won't. Oh, you want an attorney? Oh, you want witnesses? Don't be so silly. We're going to try you in England, and all your witnesses will be back there in the colonies. That's kind of unfair, right? Even though you're accused of committing a crime in the colonies, you think that's one of the reasons where the crime took place. All in the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. Those founding fathers, pretty wise dudes, all right? They really were. Now, did they get it right? No. Were they perfect? No. But they knew what they didn't want to have take place, right? King said, oh, we're not going to give you an attorney. Can't do that. And then we're going to, we'll convict you. Maybe they'll try. Maybe we won't. But maybe we'll torture you. It's a little cruel and unusual punishment. Excessive fines, forfeitures. Yeah, well, can't do that either. Because that's what the king did. The king was a bully and a thug. And the Constitution said, no government. These are the limitations you have, right? And this is my problem with, prosecutors in general. But don't get me wrong. They're, trying to do their best job. But the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, it is a limit on government's power and authority. And nobody in the government gets up and says, you know what? I think the American people need a little more freedom, right? Most people don't do that. I think that those people, they're not smart enough to know what they need to do. So we're just going to protect them from themselves. All right. But we digress. Let's go back to Mangione. He's sitting there minding his own business. And then these police come up and they want to start asking him questions. They're doing a simple investigation. He complies. They're going to say, hey, consensual encounter. He's, if I was his attorney, I'm saying, look, Frank, let's run the video that was released today from the motions hearing in the Luigi Mangione case. Here's a cop going into a funeral. Thank God for body cams. Love body cams. Defense attorneys always wanted body cams. Frankly, it helps. All right. So here's the cop going up to him. Hey, you turn the volume up, Frank. You can hear that.
Okay. What's your name?
Mark.
What is it?
Mark.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mark what?
Buzzard.
Sorry. Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have your ID on you?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Here's crime number one. He consulted with the police officer. Now, if I was the defense attorney, I'll say he wasn't free to leave. This way he walked back in there. He's not free to leave. I was losing, wasn't it?
26, 27, 29 out of New Jersey.
All right. So he gives the ID. Now, they don't show the rest of the video, but seated there on the chair next to him is his little I cannot talk tonight. His little black backpack that, maybe had a firearm and wrapped up in his underwear. And they describe it as damp and moist underwear in his bag. He's got a suppressor. He's got some ammunition. He's got his little book of things to do, basically incriminating things that one could say could be incriminating. Obviously, he's entitled to the presumption of innocence, but that's what motion hearings are for, to decide what evidence is going to come in. Was it obtained illegally or illegally? Now, the defense has filed motions stating that the search was unconstitutional in violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? We just talked about it, because the Fourth Amendment says that it protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures by requiring that warrants be issued only upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. All right. So generally, before the cops can start digging into stuff, you got to get a warrant, right? Who doesn't love those doormats where it says, get a warrant? Lets people know, lets officers know that you understand your rights, right? However, like everything that they teach you in law school, and any lawyer worth their salt will tell you, there is always an exception to the rule. And there is such a thing called search incident to arrest. All right. Now, the search incident to arrest exception, that permits law enforcement to conduct a warrantless search of the person that they're arresting and his immediate surroundings, and contemporaneous with his lawful arrest. Okay. Now, was it a lawful arrest? Well, they made contact with him. It's suspicious. Ultimately, he gives them false name, possesses forged documents. Yes. They find out that's a bogus ID. He can be arrested. More than likely, lawful arrest. Now, this case that really started all this goes back to a case called Chimmel versus California. And it's justified the rationale to, one, to protect officers, right? Officer safety. And two, to prevent the destruction of evidence. That's the important thing about search incident to arrest. Now, the scope of the search is limited to the arrestee's person and the area within their immediate control, usually their wingspan. All right. So if you get stopped in a car, cops can, if they arrest you, they can start searching around in the front of the car, make sure there's no weapons, illegal contraband, anything along those lines. That's why they always find guns underneath the seat, in the center console, underneath the dash, right? All within the immediate area of the police officers where they can search. All right. Now, if they arrest you for a traffic violation and, they want to search the car, they can probably search around in there. But does that mean they get to go into the trunk and then maybe open containers in the trunk? Probably not. That would be in violation of the law, right? But, we can't have officers waiting around all day to get warrants to comply with the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Can you imagine how troublesome that would be? Yeah, don't care. That's the law. It's supposed to be burdensome on the government. That's why they did it. It's restrictions on the government. It is the guardrail for the government. All right. But they can do that. They can search around there. All right. And what does that include? Does that include, like I said, it wasn't a car. He was in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Well, the bag was within his immediate reach. Was it not? It was. So the question then becomes, can they then open the bag, look inside the bag, right? And guess what? They say that they see the firearm. They see ammunition. Well, guess what? Now the officer is justified under the search incident to arrest. It also implicates officer safety issues now, because now they know what it is. They're going to separate that, right? And so that's what the defense and the prosecution are arguing about. Should they have gone into that backpack at that particular time, or should they have waited to get a warrant? Well, let's talk about this. Let's be logical. Let's be practical. All right. You arrest Luigi Mangione. You say, hey, is that your bag? Yeah, it's my bag. Okay. You take it down, you take him down to the police station. You're going to book him in for forgery, some sort of obstruction, interference with a police officer, attempt to influence a public official. They take his bag. Let's say they don't look in the bag, but we know they did already, but they didn't. Let's just hypothetical. And they say, all right, well, we're going to take you down to the police station, and we need to see what you got in your bag because we don't want to get accused of stealing something. So they get to do what they call an inventory search. All right. And the inventory search is there to protect the officers. So, for example, in the context of a backpack carried on an arresting person or sitting next to his side, typically the police are going to be justified in conducting a warrantless search of that backpack as part of the search incident to arrest, because it's within their immediate control in the grab area, allowing officers to inspect for weapons or contraband, just like we talked about, right? And like I said, that continues to personal containers like purses, backpack, fanny packs, duffel bags, anything that could be carried by the arrestee, even if the individual is subsequently secured, as long as the search is contemporaneous with the arrest. Now, let's say they just didn't search it at all. They threw it in the patrol car, say, we'll book this in later. Okay. That's where we come to this next issue. Now, they take it down there to the police station. What are they going to do? Well, they want to make sure they don't get in trouble. What's in it? They can do this right there as well, right? But they're going to say, "Oh, look, here we got a firearm. Oh, we got some bullets. Oh, what are these little inscriptions on here? Deny, delay. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we got this little book. So even the question is, well, can they open the book? What was so dangerous about the book? That's probably the best thing they can maybe argue. They shouldn't have gone into the book for his personal effects and writings. But the gun, yeah, probably coming in. The silencer, probably coming in. Okay. Inventory search. And the other exception to that is the fact that it would be an inevitable discovery. They arrested him. They're going to take his backpack. And even if they didn't look at it, they were going to inventory his items at the jail for his own protection. And like they say, oh look, guns, bullets, silencers, his notes about how to get away. Do you think this may have some evidentiary value? Yes. Would the police maybe then go get a warrant, just maybe double check it? Yeah, probably not, because they're going to say it was an inventory search. So we're good. All right. So like I said, Luigi Mangione's people have a bit of a hurdle to overcome. The search incident to arrest, officer safety, inevitable discovery, search, and the search incident arrest as it relates to the backpack. So he's got some problems, and I would be surprised based upon what I've seen. Now, maybe there's something I haven't seen. Maybe there's some big thing coming up here real soon that will completely change the facts and circumstances of Luigi Mangione's case. If that happens, I'll be the first to admit it. Oh, that's new. Change the circumstances. Maybe it should get suppressed. But based upon what we've seen thus far, I think the judge is going to be hard pressed to suppress this evidence. However, we throw in the Luigi Mangione effect, right? Listen, most people be like, oh my gosh, Luigi Mangione is accused of killing a business executive, a wealthy business executive in broad daylight on a New York street. How bold is that? Most people would say, oh my God, that took place in my city. Oh my God. Well, Luigi Mangione, though, he's a man with a mission. He has a motive. He hates insurance companies. Now, I talked about it today. I hate insurance companies. They're the worst. All right. They always try to screw their people. They always try to deny, delay, right? I get it. But in a civilized society, you can't go around allegedly shooting people in the back, no matter how ruggedly handsome and good looking you might appear to be, right? Even if you're Ivy League educated and come from apparently a nice family that owns lots of nursing homes or something, or some sort of real estate investments. The bottom line is that, it doesn't give you a free pass. It doesn't give you a free pass to do that. So that's where that stands. Now, the motions hearings are going to continue for the rest of the week. All right. Which is fine. But at the end of the day, the judge is ultimately going to have to rule on these motions. Now, let me also tell you, you're not going to hear this from most people. All right. But we try to tell it to you straight here at Crime Talk. I have no, I could, say I'm going to be on Luigi Mangione's side. Let the facts be damned. Let the law be damned. It doesn't matter. Luigi Mangione is innocent. Those ruggedly handsome, good looks. He's got a big fan base, and he's got a bunch of nice looking attorneys as well. He must be innocent. He comes from a nice family. Seems like such a good boy, right? I could do that, but I wouldn't be honest. I got nothing. I mean, seriously, I don't get, what do I get? Maybe I get a few more views if I say Luigi Mangione is innocent. I mean, I think one of the views is like, yeah, it's a tough road to hoe. And you could hear the unsubscribe going off. But it's the truth. I'm not going to BS you just to get clicks and views. Okay. He is in a world of hurt. And as I explained to you before, and I'll say it again, you can tell what the defense feels is bad evidence in their case based upon the motions that they file at the motions hearing. And here, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the defense thinks that the gun with the silencer and the bullets with the little engravings on them and the little notebook plotting out, getting out of town, how he's going to do things. Not good. Not good. A reasonable, rational jury could reasonably conclude, based upon the evidence presented at trial, if proven beyond a reasonable doubt, that Luigi Mangione may have done it. Now, could the defense say, that's not Luigi Mangione? Now, as I also recall, I think there was some DNA on the shell casings. Am I making that up, or is that correct? I think there was DNA on the shell casings that were recovered at the crime scene, was my recollection. That's another bad fact, right? But you notice they're not filing a motion to suppress that because, well, Luigi Mangione has no expectation of ownership, privacy as it relates to those, because they were abandoned at the crime scene. The government can then pick them up, check them, analyze them, say, ooh, let's compare this to Luigi Mangione. Maybe they got a fingerprint. Maybe they got DNA. Tough fact. Okay. And so, sure, sometimes you go to trial and you have lots and lots of bad facts, and you just sit there and you take it and you do what lawyers do, and you ask questions and you try to raise reasonable doubt. But at the end of the day, you're just going to keep getting kicked in the gut, and you're going to be found, your client's going to be found guilty, and that's okay. That's the process. I don't care if it's on video. Like, I don't know, say for example, this one is like more and more of crimes are. They're on video. The police encounters, all on video. Interrogations, all on video. A jury can't just simply ignore that. So let's just say they go to these motions hearings. There's no offer made for Luigi Mangione. What is he to do? I mean, we know the government in the federal case wants to seek the death penalty. We'll see if that, sticks around. It's gone in the state case. The most serious charge, he's charged now with the second-degree murder because the judge threw out the terrorism threats that would still carry the death penalty. But the reality of it comes down, what do you do at trial? Well, I would say you probably have to run an ID defense. Sure, that may look like Luigi Mangione. He may have the build of Luigi Mangione, but that's not Luigi Mangione. Okay? I've maybe mentioned this once or twice, but I did this case years and years ago. It was the "that ain't my baby" defense. I had a guy robbed, allegedly. Well, he was convicted of it, so we'll keep it at that. First goes into a 7-Eleven, robs everybody standing in line, takes all their money. There's like boom, 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 8 egg robs there. So you're looking at 10 to 32 times 8. Then he allegedly drives down to a King Soopers. Once again, tries to rob somebody. The security guard tries to grab the firearm. Firearm discharges, shoots the security guard, paralyzes him in the back, or paralyzes him from the waist down. I'm sorry. Not good fact, right? Grainy video, because this is, my goodness, probably 2005, 2006 kind of thing. Long, long time ago. Grainy video, but still video enough. They get a picture. And, everybody says, that looks like your client. I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, that kind of looks like my client too, but he says it's not him and he's not taking any deal. So I guess we'll see in trial, I guess. Right. And, when they arrested my client, they didn't have any of the items on him, right? Didn't have clothing that matched the situation, unlike Luigi Mangione did here, right? Similar jacket. Bad fact. Clothing. When they catch him 3 days later, I think you'd want to ditch all that. Anyway, we go to trial. I got nothing. I got an uncooperative client. I got video, and they bring the guy in, and he comes into his wheelchair. They'd never actually done an ID with that particular guy. They do it in court, and he's literally sitting there in his little wheelchair because now he's paralyzed, and he moves his little wheelchair with his little thing, and he moves in there, and they're like, "Do you see the man that shot you in here?" And he moves his little wheelchair. And he looks at the jury. I'm like, he's going to pick somebody from the jury. Moves his little finger. Looks at the defense table. I swear to God, I think he's going to pick somebody from the defense table. He's going to pick the prosecutor. He's going to pick their investigator. This is great. He moves on. Looks over at my table. My client's sitting there next to me. With a little finger, he goes, "That's the man that shot me." Whereupon my client then jumps up. "I didn't effing shoot you." Which is good, right? The man professing his innocence in court. God bless him. This is great. Then we bring in the big guns on the case. With the grainy video. We take a picture the best we can, and we lay it out there. And I call my client's mother. Ma'am, do you know the defendant in this particular case? Well, yes, I do. How is it that you know him? He's my baby. He's my baby. Ma'am, I want to show you a picture. Take the picture, black and white grainy video from, 16, 20 years ago, whatever it is. Ma'am, do you see the photograph of that individual that I have placed in front of you? Yes, it is, ma'am. Let me ask you this. Is that your baby? And she takes a look at that photo. She studies that photo, picks it up, looks at it, looks over at her son, looks back again, studies it some more. She goes, that ain't my baby. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, you heard her. That was not her baby. Are you sure that's not your baby, ma'am? 100% positive that ain't my baby. Of course, I save it for, closing argument. I thought it was a brilliant closing argument. One of the DAs is retired. The other one's the judge now. And we still joke about, I was in front of this particular judge several weeks ago. We still joke about that particular case. Because I said, back then it was like the dawning of the age of DNA. And I'm like, oh, they robbed everybody. Where's the DNA? Where's the DNA? They could have collected it from the soda bottles that were stolen. Because they were saying the aggravated robbery was like a soda bottle, but they put it back. Where's the DNA? So I got first, that ain't my baby, and no DNA, right? And then a questionable ID of a man that was under the stress of everything at the time. I'm feeling like, all right, we didn't think this was a great case going in, but we are really building the case up now. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to be the hero. The DA gets up there and says, DNA, you know what it stands for? Don't need any. And I'm literally sitting there. Oh, touche. That's good. And then he said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you take a look at it. Of course, his mom's going to say that ain't his baby. She doesn't want him to go to prison. But you look at it. And you can say, ma'am, that's your baby. And let's not forget the dramatic, in-court identification by the victim for the first time. Yeah. Needless to say, the jury of his peers promptly found him guilty, and I think he went away for like 60, 70 years, something like that. So maybe Luigi Mangione needs to try. I'm willing to consult and go with that ain't my baby defense. Okay. You can also go with, I just happened to pick up this jacket and this backpack, and that's not my writing. Now, I'm sure the defense has probably had a handwriting expert to compare the handwriting in the little diary to see if that is in fact Luigi Mangione's. We'll have to wait and see if that comes to fruition. But yeah, they're going to have to maybe run an ID defense or some sort of mental health defense. But I don't think Luigi Mangione would be the kind of guy that would take kindly to that, because he doesn't want to be seen as crazy. Right? You gotta go NGRI. I mean, I don't know why. I'm sure able to see if there's want to go surf the world and becomes irate and frustrated at insurance companies. I get you. I feel the rage. I do. I don't like insurance companies either. But you can't go around shooting their CEOs. Maybe go shop, get a better policy, what you can do. Change legislation. Repeal really bad laws as it relates to insurance. Something along those lines, yes. But you can't go around shooting people. Now, we'll see if Luigi Mangione is the one that actually shot him. But the reality of it is that you can't do that, whoever did it. But maybe they go with that ain't my baby defense. Chew on that for a little bit. Frank, am I seeing here on somebody? Looks like Mike, 1971, 2010. Super sticker. Thank you. We don't ask or beg for super chats, stickers, all that good stuff, but we appreciate them. We do. And appreciate that. All right. So let me know if you got any Luigi Mangione questions. I'll kind of scroll down here on the screen to see where we are on that as well. Let me also go back to a couple of other things I want to talk about while we take a look at that. So obviously we have Luigi Mangione, right? We talked about the search incident arrest, inevitable discovery. They're going to find it anyway. And today, and a lot of coincidences, right? Today was the day that Luigi Mangione got arrested. December 9th, 2024, Altoona, Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Take a look at that. Coincidence that they're litigating his case about a year out? Nope, not surprising to me. It's kind of on a fast track for, most murder cases. I got a couple lingering around. My God, one's 2.5 years old. One, we're coming up trial in January. I guess it's about a year and a half out. So by the time they get to trial, it'll be about a year and a half, which is kind of the average lifespan, so to speak, for a homicide case. Now, and I forgot to mention this, but so this is an older edition here, but it's a search and seizure checklist. Okay. People write books, thick books. They update this every year because the law changes. New cases come out every year just on search and seizures, right? Got chapters on, well, let's just go to the front of the book, right? Just to give you an idea of all the little various things that you can talk about. So chapter 1, obviously, Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. It's kind of a big deal, right? Interest protected, houses, automobiles, seizable items, scope of the seizures, probable cause defined. Probable cause means evidence that would lead a reasonable person to believe that an offense has been or is being committed, or that seizable objects are in the place to be searched. Remedies for unconstitutional police conduct, right? Seizable items, we got that. Let's go on to the other chapters here, because it just shows you how, here we go. The search, the search itself, the test, the balancing test, the seizure, when is a person seized, right? Now, obviously, if you're in handcuffs, are you free to go? Probably not. But are you under arrest? Well, you may just be detained within, for a limited purpose, right? But most people say, well, I was under arrest. I wasn't free to go. But yes, so many exceptions. A stop based on reasonable suspicion, lesser intrusions, non-seizures, encounters between citizens and police do not necessarily always constitute seizures. Then we got the seizure. Then we got the arrest, standard for arrest, arrests in public places, houses, arrest warrants, exigent circumstances, right? Normally can't burst into somebody's house, but let's say the bad guy's running through the neighborhood and starts running through your house. They can follow them, even if it's his house. Entering homes after arrest, right? Police may accompany an arrested person in the home after a lawful arrest. Pretext in determining whether an arrest is lawful, the court must apply an objective test and not examine the officer's subjective intent. Was it a pretextual stop? We pulled him over because he had that little air freshener hanging from his windshield. It was obstruction. No, yeah. Most courts throw that out these days. The search warrant requires how to issue it, the standard, definitions, description, the showing. How about if it involves informants? Are they reasonably reliable? What do we know about them? Is this the first time, or have you used them 10 times and they've been able to produce multi-kilo deals? It matters. That all has to go into the search warrant, or for the affidavit for the search warrant. How about staleness, right? The information's old, usually, it depends, but like drugs, I mean, we're talking, a couple days at most. Where they say, we bought drugs and we'll come back in 10 days. No, they may have packed up and moved on. Staleness. How about the information that was provided by the informant? Was it too old? Could be stale. The scope in executing the search warrant. Anticipatory warrants, right? A warrant issues before the contraband arrives to the property is valid in carefully controlled circumstances. Execution, lawful entry, standard of review. The decision of the magistrate to issue a warrant must be examined with great deference to the magistrate. False affidavits. What if you find out they lied or they didn't give the correct information? Remember the lady that got killed in Kentucky a couple years ago? False information in the warrants, right? The defendant is entitled to a hearing, Frank's hearing, when he makes specific allegations of deliberate or reckless material false statements in the affidavit upon which a search warrant was issued. Can't have cops going around lying to the police, right? No, we can't do that. What's the remedy if that happens? Well, probably suppression. Warrantless searches. A warrantless search is presumed to be unreasonable, unless, of course, we have the exceptions. The exceptions to warrant requirements. How about, like I said, search incident to arrest? Exigent circumstances. Exigent circumstances include hot pursuit, a fleeing suspect, destruction of evidence, or other situations in which speed is essential, where they don't have time to go and get a warrant. Stop and frisk, vehicle stops, vehicle searches, containers and luggages, right? Inventory searches. The inventory search may be conducted only to protect the owner's property and to protect the police against claims of danger, right? That's there to protect the police officer as well as you. You know, we're just going to seize your car and take it in. And, I don't have enough, routine traffic stop, right? Ooh, doesn't look like you have a valid license. We're going to impound your car. Would you give me permission to search the car? No, because there's a dead body in the trunk. No, not going to do that, right? So they say, fine, we're going to search your car. We're going to tow it. But guess what? We got to inventory it, make sure there's nothing in here of value. And, they pop the trunks, make sure there's nothing of value. Oh, there it is, the dead body in plain view at that point, right? The question is, should they have gone in there? Well, inventory search, plain view. Think about it. What do I need a warrant for? If I pull a guy over, I know he's a convicted felon, and in the back seat, laying on the back seat is a rifle. Plain view. Do I need a warrant? No. Officer safety, abandonment, right? Abandonment is a voluntary relinquishment of control of the property. So if you're running, say you got your backpack, you're running from the police because you got contraband in the back of that backpack, and you're running and you think nobody's looking, and you take the backpack and you throw it away. Guns, drugs, that's usually what that is. But when a person abandons property, they don't retain the constitutionally protected expectation of privacy. Remember, even in the Bryan Kohberger case, the knife sheath, they didn't move to suppress that. Remember that? That had his DNA on it. Wouldn't you love to suppress that? Well, you file a motion to suppress that, ladies and gentlemen. He has an expectation of privacy. I mean, sure, the sheath was in somebody else's house at the crime scene underneath a dead body, but we want that DNA suppressed. They couldn't. So what did they do? They tried to go and attack it other ways. So abandonment, curtilages, right? The curtilages of a home is provided the same protections as a home, as long as it doesn't extend into open fields, right? So if you got a house but you got a detached garage, get a warrant. They can't, just do that. And of course, what is consent? Oh, even better yet, we got a big old chapter on border and immigration stops and searches. Remember, you have no expectation of privacy coming across the border. I don't care if you are a citizen of the United States. Not at the border. No expectation of privacy. Boats, administrative searches, airport searches, mail searches, canine searches, electronic surveillance, beepers, electronic phones, body searches, drug testing, institutions, forfeiture, standing, burden of proof, derivative evidence, the fruits of the poisonous tree doctrine. Literally, people write books on this, ladies and gentlemen, all the time, and they update it every year. Fourth Amendment law is tricky, right? When you do criminal law, you have to become a Fourth Amendment expert. And sometimes it pains me to have to tell my clients that they got no case because the police did everything okay and correct, or think there was an issue. But, we got a weak sauce judge, and the judge isn't going to give us any love at any kind of motions hearing. So remember that. But that's usually what those issues are. All right. That's what it boils down to. All right. That's what Luigi Mangione boils down to. All right, let's move on. Today is also the 2-month anniversary that Melodee Buzzard went missing. The little 9-year-old girl. Her mom apparently took her on a road trip, maybe to Nebraska, Kansas. The last seen at the Colorado-Utah border state line at a restaurant. But nobody knows where she is. And mom is of questionable, I don't know. She, nobody's really been able to ask her to produce the kid. She's not cooperating, and there's nothing there. So somebody knows where Ashley Buzzard is, or Melodee Buzzard did. Ashley Buzzard is the mom. She faced that false imprisonment case for some friend that, said that she was questioned about, what happened to the kid, and they, she left him with somebody, etc. But that case got kicked out at preliminary hearing. So, that guy didn't have a whole lot of credibility because apparently there was an audio recording of the entire conversation. It didn't quite just turn out the way that person alleged it to be, and the case got dismissed. So Melodee Buzzard still missing. Someone somewhere knows where she is. Hopefully somebody will do it. Also, we got Bryan Kohberger, right? Allegedly trying to write other mass murderers, consulting. Maybe they're going to have like a fan club, a little phone tree, I guess, so to speak. They can communicate. Yeah, we could have done this better. Well, I'll learn from this. And of course, he's complaining about everything that's taking place in custody as well. It's just, I don't know. The Bryan Kohberger case, that story is going to be around forever. This guy wants not only his 15 minutes of fame, he wants his whole hour and the rest of his lifetime. And the problem is, I know we probably shouldn't talk about the stuff, but the reality of it is people are interested in it. And he's such an unlikable guy. He really is. I know there's, the pro-burgers out there, and, we always give them first opportunity to say, why they think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. But guess what? He hasn't filed any appeals whatsoever. Remember, everyone's like, oh, he's going to file appeal and he's going to revoke the offer and it's all over and he's going to go to trial. It's done, ladies and gentlemen. Now, yes, would we have all have liked to see Bryan Kohberger be asked by the judge, which I still think this is what they usually do in federal court, which is tell me in your own words what happened. What did you do? Are you pleading guilty because you're actually guilty? Right? We don't want to convict innocent people. We don't want to convict people of crimes if they think they haven't done it. And if they don't want to do it, then go to trial. That's what trials are for. Frankly, plea bargaining never really, it just doesn't really exist. And the state system is weird. You can be charged with murder and, you can plead guilty to defective headlamp, and I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying? You can do all kinds of creative plea bargaining, waive factual basis and things like that. You go to federal court, man, if you're charged with it, you got to plead guilty to it. I mean, that's just the way it is. And, they got to, you got to say, yeah, I did it. If not, you go to trial. There's no, well, I'm not going to do this. And the federal sentencing guidelines kind of dictate what you got to do. And even if you don't plead guilty to something, some things can still come in under the federal sentencing guidelines because they want to take in all the relevant conduct. So it is a tricky, tricky world out there. But I would have loved for a judge to have Bryan Kohberger say, this is what it is. This is what I did. But they didn't. So we were stuck for that. Let me see if there's any questions here that we can go to. Let's do this before we continue on here. Looks like lots of conversation. Scott, how do you feel about Becky Hill pleading guilty? Vindicated. That's how I feel about Becky Hill For those who don't recall, she was the clerk of the court in the Alec Murdaugh case there in Colleton County, South Carolina. Allegations of misconduct that arose shortly after her duties as the clerk. And then, of course, she just happened to write a book. She got in trouble for that. Oh, and it turns out maybe she interacted with some jurors inappropriately. And the judge says, yeah, I don't really find her credible, but I'm not going to overturn the conviction because, you know, hey, only a couple of jurors said we thought it was inappropriate. We had 9 or, you know, close enough for government work, I guess. But then turns out she allowed the press access to things she shouldn't have been allowing access to, i.e. photos. She lied about it. She pled guilty, I think, to 4 counts. 4 counts. And of course, she gets a sweetheart deal. She gets probation. Really, she's a public servant affecting the rights of, yes, Alec Murdaugh is guilty, but you got to give them, even a guilty guy, a fair trial, right, ladies and gentlemen? If we let, and this is why, you know, my job is as a little harmless little fuzzball, as a criminal defense attorney, it is the defense attorneys out there every day saying, government, you can't do that. Okay. And the defendant may be the biggest piece of garbage around. Everybody may hate his mama, may hate him. Okay. His mom, they may have come and saying, that ain't my baby, right? Everybody hates him. Maybe he's had a string of attorneys. Just the most unlikable guy in the world, guilty as sin. But listen, it's the defense attorney's job out there to make sure that they don't railroad him. Why? Because I hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it, but you may not want to hear it. When the due process rights of even the scummiest, dirtbaggest defendant that everybody hates, that everybody knows is guilty, practically confessed to everything. If we allow the government to railroad the guilty people, ladies and gentlemen, they will do it to the innocent people as well. And I mean that. They will do it because the government will think that they can get away with it. And it's only thing that stands between you showing up in court and it says the people of the state of blank versus you is maybe you can hire yourself a defense attorney. Maybe you get a court-appointed counsel. Those are the only people standing in the way of you being railroaded, whether it's the state or the United States of America versus you and all the resources that go with it. Think about it. If you got charged with a crime, you think you could pull out a couple $100,000 to go hire a defense attorney on a serious case, maybe in federal court? Most people can't do that. Maybe you qualify for public defender. Maybe you are in that little donut hole, right? Where you make just enough money. You don't qualify for the public defender, but you don't have enough money to hire a private counsel. Maybe not a very good one. What are you going to do? Start selling everything? Borrowing money from family, friends? Represent yourself? It's there. Protect everybody. Okay? It really, really is. And that's what we do. Here's a question. Melodee Buzzard is 9. And then California should have never made it not criminal for truancy. Yeah, but they can still bring you in, haul you into court. Now, I understand she's going to take the 5th because she has 5th Amendment exposure. And any attorney worth their salt is going to advise her to keep her mouth shut. Going to say, lawyer, 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 right? And it's kind of a good segue into, you can go down and check out the merch. Look at this one, kind of like this. And there's one that says lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. I can't remember if this is it. Nope, this one just says the Constitution matters. And of course, we got some limited edition t-shirts as well. You should go check those out. Do it for yourself. But yeah, truancy, I would do something for Melodee Buzzard. If I was the DA in that case, if I was a county attorney in some way that I could do the power to have people somehow bring her in, demand that she produce the child. And if not, she better have a really good explanation for that. Yeah, I think they could do something. Like I said, that's what they did in the Lori Vallow case. Like, hey, we haven't seen your kids in a while. Let's start a dependency neglect. We're concerned about the welfare of your children. But hey, if there's anyone that can screw something up, by God, let it be the state of California. They could certainly do that. So going back to Cecilia, yeah, I felt vindicated that Becky Hill got charged because I said, I don't like her. I don't trust her. I think she's lying. And well, it turns out, well, she was. Should it affect the case of Alec Murdaugh? I think it absolutely should. Do I think Alec Murdaugh is, probably guilty? Absolutely. Not just probably guilty, proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah. I mean, those videos or the audio of him down by the kennels down there at the house did it in. The car evidence of him driving around, the speed slowing down just right about where the car was. Whew, what a coincidence, right? So I think he did it. Yeah, I do. But I think he's entitled to a fair trial, and that means that he should get it. And is it because Becky Hill is a liar? Yes. She pled guilty to some theft cases. I think it was obstruction, and some other things that I can't recall off the top of my head. But there were 4 counts total. And of course, they gave her probation. She's got to pay back some money, right? She was tapped as the clerk of the court, elected, a public official, denying the public the right to criminal-free people running their government. Can you imagine such a thing? Yeah. So yeah, I feel vindicated. I didn't like her. I thought she was lying. Everybody was like, how dare you? She's such a good Southern woman. She's just telling the truth. Alec Murdaugh is a bad man. Becky Hill is a good woman. Yeah, when then they found out that she was accessing tapes, her son had a case going on too. She was trying to make a few bucks, which goes back to the point. I don't care if you're a judge. I don't care if you work, as an administrator in the court system. You want to go make a side hustle while you're working for the government, then you quit. You don't get to have a side hustle and do it. I don't think judges should be able to go teach to make a few extra bones. If you're in the government, that's your job. If you can't live on that, quit, go to the private sector. Government careers were never meant to be careers. They were meant to be interim short processes. You showed up, you got some experience, right? And everybody moved on. You went to work in the private sector. That was the area you wanted to work in. You did it. That's why attorneys, they always bounce back and forth. Oh, I'm going to work at the FCC, right? They go there a couple of years, they learn their trade, then they go into the private sector. Oh, now they want to appoint you the head of the office. Okay, I'll go back. And this is back and door. But while you're there, your job needs to be working on the government. And who knows, after the Supreme Court cases yesterday, and I know, the lovely Miss Chris and I, we went out for dinner last night, and, we came home, get in bed. I think I was watching the football game, and she was, looking at something else, whatever. But she looks over at me, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm listening to the Supreme Court oral arguments, right? And the case yesterday was the case that basically is going to more than likely allow the president and future presidents to get what they want, which is people in their administration. The people get appointed to the independent commission, like the Federal Trade Commission, the FCC, all those types of things, where these people get appointed and then they stay there. And they're supposed to be independent. And it's such a fascinating constitutional argument. That's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. This stuff is so good. The Constitution. Look how skinny it is. It only takes up in this little book 29 pages with all the amendments, right? To the 25th Amendment here, right? Actually, I take that back to the 27th Amendment, right? It's not that big. These are the rules to play by. And so interesting. And I know it's kind of, getting off sidetrack, but it's so freaking interesting. So you got Congress, right? Back in the 30s, where they want to appoint like these independent commissions to kind of, guide things and, make rules and laws. And basically they cremated what they refer to as the fourth branch of government. Well, last time I looked, let me take a look. Article 1, all legislative powers vested in Congress. Yeah, that's Article 1, right? Then we go on here and we get to Article 2. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. Yeah, that's Article 2. And we go to Article 3. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. That's Article 3. Now let's go to Article 4, full faith and credit. Okay, that's good. Nothing about administrative state. Article 5, the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, right? Article 5, amendments to the Constitution, how you get it done. Article 6, all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Confederation of States, right? The ratification of the Convention of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of the Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. And signed George Washington, right? Then we got the amendments, right? The Bill of Rights. Where does it say the president can't get rid of the fourth estate, the fourth branch of government, right? They always taught you, right? The legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Nowhere does it say that they have the administrative branch. Well, we got to have all these experts. We got to have like an EPA. We got to have the bankers, the Federal Trade Commission, people to protect us from ourselves. So they establish all these things. And Congress, being lazy, which they are, right? All laws shall be vested, creation of laws with members of Congress. Article 1. Article 2, executive branch. They're the ones that enforce it. Judicial branch, Article 3. Remember, you heard Article 3 judges. They're the ones that say, interpret the law and the statutes. That's it. So when the president says, hey, I want to get rid of this person because they're not really jiving with my intent, my agenda that I want to get moved forward, I can't. What do you mean I can't fire him? All power is the executive branch is with the president. I didn't give up that power, the president says. Congress says, don't worry about it. We are too lazy to pass laws that we think are necessary. It's so hard. We gotta, talk and hold hearings and draft legislation that everybody agrees upon. And then we got to send it to the Senate. And then, although there is no, you got to have cloture and the filibuster rule, right? 60 votes in the Senate. That's not in the Constitution. Those are rules. Anybody know why they have that rule? Well, it's because they're too lazy to actually go do it. They don't want to actually filibuster because then you'd have to stand up there and stand at the podium. And you can't, eventually you're going to have to get tired. You're going to go to the restroom. You got to stop. And if you leave the floor, then you can't filibuster anymore. So the senator said, you know what, let's, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. If I say I'm going to filibuster something, I'm not really going to filibuster. I'm just going to tell you I'm going to filibuster. And then we're going to have a rule that if I tell you I'm going to filibuster, then we need 60 votes to have cloture, which means stop the debate and do that. So if we can't get 60 votes, I'm sorry, we just can't do it because they're too lazy. So they said, we'll create a bunch of these administrative bodies, and we'll just let them do all the work. And that's why we'll refer to them as, they're not really legislative bodies. So we'll refer to them as quasi-legislative. And we'll maybe even let them set up some rules, right? Because they got judged, and we'll have a little police force. And then they'll have their own little branch. We'll call them quasi-judicial. And they can rule and they can take away people's property and fine them and take away things from them. And you look and say, well, where is that in the Constitution? So back in the 30s, during probably one of the worst presidents in the history of the United States, and I know people are going to roll their eyes. The lovely Miss Kristen rolls her eyes when I say this, but it's true. One of the worst presidents in the history of the United States, FDR. I know he did great. He was there, went to World War II. I get it. But all his stuff prior to that, horrible. Wasn't getting his agenda passed through. Why? Supreme Court said, unconstitutional. You don't have the power and authority to do that. So what does he do? He says, if you don't start passing my legislation, I'm going to stack the court. Because nowhere does it say it has to be 9. In fact, throughout history, it's been less. It's been 7 justices. It could be 5 for all they care, right? Under Article 3. And all those, inferior courts, we're going to just, the only court that is actually prescribed in the Constitution is the Supreme Court. That's it. Everything else is made by Congress. But the justices back then got scared and they're like, oh, we can't do that. Well, we'll give them a little bit of stuff. We'll do a little bit. We're not going to stack the court. And so he threatened to stack the court because he wasn't getting his agenda through. Sound familiar? People do it today. Nothing is new, ladies and gentlemen. They've all tried it before. And now somebody's going back through, almost 100 years later and saying, 91 to be exact, saying, I don't think you guys have the authority to do this. And what do you mean? When did the president, when did all these other wimpified presidents just secede all their power to the legislative branches and say, I know what you're doing over there is totally against what I want to do, but I my hands are tied. You're appointed for the next 25 years. And under the executive branch, you should be able to be fired at will. You think you have that much job security in your job anywhere other than if you work for the government? No. Most states are at will. Employer doesn't like your haircut that day, you're fired. You showed up 5 minutes late, you're fired. Maybe it's just a bad day, you're fired. But not if you're in the government. So the question is who can be fired by the president in the government? He's saying, well, all these people should be able to be fired if they're not going to work for my agenda, right? Kind of goes along with the whole notion of, well, if you don't like your job, quit. And if you don't think about it. It's your local level. The mayor comes in and he says, I'm going to have this plan. He's going to be able to bring in all the people that support his ideas to run his particular agencies. They serve at the pleasure of the mayor. But in the federal system, they're political appointees, but a lot of these independent agencies say, I can do whatever I want. I have no loyalty to anybody. Well, that's not it. That's not what the law says. And I think, and people should be surprised, and I'm telling you, it is worth the listen on this stuff. I was so fascinated with it last night. I went back and re-listened to other parts of it again. The Socratic method. Jenny wants to know, where can we find the SCOTUS oral arguments? Well, I'd like to say we'd had them up, but I don't think we do. But you can go to SCOTUS website and you can listen to them. They even have a transcript of it. But I'm telling you, the transcript just doesn't do justice to it. To hear these justices engage in the Socratic method and to have attorneys from either side just, nail it, or you can literally see that the other side knows that their ruling that what they're arguing for makes no sense. And that is the beautiful thing about the judicial system, right? One side gets to talk uninterrupted. It's not like a bunch of talking heads that are talking over everybody and they don't let the facts be damned. Those attorneys have to actually answer the question. And if you don't answer the question, the judge will say, but you didn't answer my question. And they'll kind of rephrase it. but they engage in this Socratic method whereby you can even see, you can literally see, it's on audio, but you could see the petitioner in this particular case going off the lights in his head saying, "You're right. My argument is making no sense whatsoever. I know you know it. I believed that I was making sense, but it's clear to everybody in this room that what I'm selling, you guys aren't buying." Okay. And we've all been there. Any attorney that's ever been to court knows that feeling. Okay. But to listen to it, I swear it is, you have some of the best attorneys, the solicitor general, the person that argues the cases on behalf of the United States. Oh my God, this guy is so good. At one point, the judge like, well, when have we ever turned over, 90-year precedent? And he just starts ticking them off. Boom, boom, boom. And the judge, well, I didn't mean that case. I mean, that's a different kind of case. What other case where we radically affected the government? Here's 1, 2, 3, probably nicked off 6 cases off the top of his head. I'm assuming it was off the top of his head. He may have had notes for that in anticipation for that. But I'm telling you, I've only been to the United States Supreme Court once. Oop. And look, there's my admission. I'm a bona fide member of the United States Supreme Court. Didn't get to argue it. It was just a brief. It was just a amicus brief. I wish I'd said, that I, did more than I did, but I got admitted to the United States Supreme Court. I got to sit in. I was literally probably the distance between where I'm sitting now to where Frank is over there, maybe 12 feet from the justices. I was 1 row away from the attorneys arguing the case. Greatest experience in my legal life. Wouldn't have traded it forever. I love to go to DC, and next time I go back, I want to be able to go when the court is in session, because as a member of the Supreme Court bar, I'm entitled to almost no special seating, but I do have a separate line other than the unwashed riffraff on the other side of the building. I say that jokingly, but I was freezing my butt off at like 5:30 in the morning to get in there. We had an associate that went with us. Unfortunately, the lovely Miss Kristen couldn't go with us, but the other attorney was also on the brief. So I was like, we need to go. She's like, I don't know if I want to go. I'm like, listen, it took me, 28 years, 29 years to get to the United States Supreme Court. Filed cert several times in federal cases. Never got there. I said, you never know when this opportunity will ever come back again. You really need to go. And she was like, yes, greatest experience of my limited legal career. I think she was maybe 7 years out at that point. But the reality of it is, go listen to that stuff. I'm telling you. And you don't have to, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it is a criminal case, a civil case. These people are just so smart. They really are. And, you may not like them. You may, I don't like the way they rule. They're prepared. And it is something spectacular to see in person, but it is just amazing to actually listen to it. And like I said, I'm such a dork. I go home at night and I'm listening to oral argument from the Supreme Court. I know, total dork, geek. I know. Aficionado, crime talk aficionado. That's what I am. Love this stuff. Yeah, Sky went high and tight. Yeah, if you notice the video from this earlier today, my hair, I look like a freaking hippie. If it got any longer, next thing you know, I'll be listening to loud music, smoking dope, bad mouthing my country. That's what I look like. Look like a freaking hippie. But thank God, Clint, my barber, who has been a barber for 61 years, got me in today, cleaned me up. I look human again. And yes, that is it. I'm also being reminded, Frank, can you hand me the sweatshirt? The navy one, perhaps. I don't know. Bring me all 3. Yeah. All right. If you're a true aficionado, and I'm telling you, what do we charge for these, Frank? $50? $50. Yeah. A pilot and a member of the Supreme Court bar. Yes, that's right. That's right. Jet pilot and Supreme Court bar member. All right. We got these limited quantity special edition.
We got these two.
Oh, here's the blue one. Got them different colors. Gray, blue. Look at those bad boys. Yes, look at that. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't want that? And it's made of this stuff. I don't know if you can see it, but it's, I don't know, it's like the stitching, like it used to be like in, like you see on like letter jackets or something way back in the day. That's what it's made of. It's not some thing that's going to rub off. This is like real cool stuff. Okay. Everybody wants one. All the cool kids are wearing them. I got one. I wear it. I wore it the other day. I had a white one on the other day when we did the show. Everybody should get one. It's like $50. You want one for Christmas. Get it now. Okay. Do it now. Let's see here. Okay. Somebody has something here. Sally, what does she say? But Clarence Thomas never says he's making the decision because the defendant paid a $500,000 vacation home for him. And I agree. Listen, it would be intellectually dishonest. I agree. Members of the court, why are you getting gifts? And then when your case just happens to show up at the United States Supreme Court, you would think, maybe I should recuse myself, right? But they don't. I agree. I'd like to be consistent. He should have recused himself. He shouldn't take gifts. Why are members of government taking gifts from anybody? Why are members of the government getting book deals? You want to write that book? Resign. And, on these book deals, it shouldn't be some, payback for, we're going to sign you up for a book deal. We're going to pay you 10, 12 million bucks because you're going to be so interesting. Oh my God, everyone's going to read it. Right. And it never becomes a bestseller or anything like that. They should have a provision that's of the law that you can have a book deal, but guess what? If it doesn't make money, you got to pay that advance back. It can't just be, we're going to pay you off for some different thing. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, the government is nothing more than a money laundering organization. If we haven't seen that by all the stuff that was going on with all the NGOs, criminal enterprise, ladies and gentlemen. If you and I did that, we would be prosecuted under the law, probably charged with many, many things. But that's just the way it goes. Let's see, Mom Pig. I can't find the shirts. I need blue and white. Everybody has their price, Scott. Everybody does, I guess. I mean, everybody's got a number. But I've always lived by the simple notion that I've never been paid enough money to jeopardize my law license. And I've never met a client that's paid me enough money to go to prison for them. Not going to happen. What's this here? Scott. I'm a major dork. I have 4 televisions and not one is plugged in. Some still in boxes. I couldn't find the sweatshirts. Frank, there's a link to the sweatshirts. Is there not?
Yes.
Okay. I think the link is down below. Got to go to merch. Frank is telling me it's there. I'm not sure if I can do it here on my screen, but it's down below.
Yes, I'll do it.
Frank's going to do it right now. All right. All right. We're going to stay on the air till we sell all these shirts, ladies and gentlemen. It's a merchathon. We're not leaving until we sell everything. Oh, wait, here it is. Mama Pink has the link. There it is. ScottReich.com. Crime Talk Store. Is that it? Or is there a different one, Frank? It's that one. All right. See, Mama Pink comes through. Oh, there it is. Mama Pink. The sweatshirts are on the main page of the link I posted. The white one is showing. Now, remember, these are limited demand. These are limited supply because this is the Crime Talk Fall Special Edition. And if they sell out really fast, we could go big, could go huge. See, Tanya says she went there last week and there wasn't there. Look, Frank's showing it. There it is. $50 plus some shipping. Got to charge for the shipping. That's reasonable. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. $50. You've wasted up $50 on what you were going to spend on coffee this week, right? By going to Starbucks. Might as well get something that's going to last, something you can, have. Pamela, she's the best. Hey, Pamela. Love the haircut. Thanks. Any interesting trials coming up? Yeah, but I can't really talk about it. I'll just say it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Murder for hire? Yeah, it's always good, right? I can't go into specifics, but it ought to be good. Sally, is there a tariff on it? No, we only buy American products. We only buy American. Okay. Bottom line is we only buy American. We love America. It's the greatest country in America, greatest country in the world. America is. Where else can a kid grow up, middle class, below lower middle class, first one to go to college, first one to ever go to law school, and for lack of a better term, live the American dream, so to speak. Love America. Doesn't matter who your daddy was, where you grew up. Anybody can come here. They're willing to work hard and be successful, and the American dream. We have one of the greatest things that as an employer that just makes me so happy, because some days, I'll be honest with you, some days I think, what the heck am I doing? I made more money for myself personally. If, go back to me, myself, and I, and a secretary, and I'll just pick and choose the cases I want to do, and that's it, right? But when you have staff and employees, some days it's a grind. I'm not going to lie. But then you hear, and this year we've had 3 people in our office buy homes. That's exciting stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd like to think, as employer, helping people live the American dream, so to speak, to own their own property, right? In most places, a lot of the world, you can't. Or if you do, they can come take it away if they want to on a moment's notice. So yeah, that's just the kind of thing that it's tough, but this is a great country. It really is. And is it perfect? No. But like I said, some kid that, they said, hey, maybe you should go be an auto mechanic. Although I'll probably make more money as an auto mechanic these days. The bottom line is, it didn't matter. You could do whatever you wanted. And that one of the few countries in America where you can actually do that. And there's people that want to leave America. Oh, I don't like America. It sucks, right? And what do they say? They're all advertising, I'm leaving. It's like all the people saying, I disagree with you. I'm unsubscribing. Okay, you'll be back, right? Just like all the people that leave America, they all say, I'm leaving. I'm never coming back. They always come back because listen, there are beautiful places in the world. There really are. But, like all the people who go to Europe, Europe's nice. But I wouldn't want to live there. A couple weeks, month, maybe. But after a while, the weather isn't great. It's expensive. It's not America. And if you've ever lived under it, there's a difference. You just don't feel the freedom that exists. And I'm telling you, go to China. You think security state? We got it bad, right? Here we do. But the, reality of it is, I remember when I was in China, we're there, private tour, things are going great. Had this great tour guide. And we're there. And we're visiting Tiananmen Square. And I'm like, hey, that's Tiananmen Square. Are we going to stop there? She's like, yes, we're going to go there. It's the great, whatever they call it, I'm like, okay, great. Hey, you wear that Tiananmen Square thing? And they're like, ooh. Like they think the car is listening to them. And it probably is, right? And I'm like, it's just Tiananmen Square. You ever seen that video? And they're like, I've known people that saw the video. It's like, I know somebody heard about somebody that watched the video of the guy standing in front of the tank, holding the flag, right? The guy disappeared, never heard from again. And I'm like, really? What's the big deal, right? I'm like, pull out my phone, right? We're in freaking China. I can't get, a decent freaking meal anywhere, but by God, I got internet in the middle of Tiananmen Square, or I can be in, Vietnam and get internet in Hung Long Bay, but I can't get it anywhere else. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So I try to pull up my internet, Tiananmen Square, blocked. The government said, you can't see it. We can't let you know the truth. Anyway, we had this tour guide for a couple of days. She was wonderful. We tipped her well. I said, don't worry. Give me your email. I will send it to you when I get back to the United States. I'll send it through, we'll make it happen. And you can say that you saw it. And then everybody will know I knew a lady who actually saw it. And this lady's dream, her only dream was to come to the United States and want to go to the United States. I said, why don't you get a visa? Why don't you just come over and do it? And she goes, my government won't give us a visa because if we leave, they know we won't come back. Think about that. What country in the world doesn't let the people leave? Well, only communist countries where they don't want you to leave, right? They used to shoot people in East Germany for leaving. South or North Korea, maybe. They shoot you if you try to leave. So anyway, I tried to send the lady the video of the Tiananmen Square when I got back to the United States. And I said, hey, what, I followed up with a separate email. Did you get the video? She goes, no, the video. And I think I got some sort of kickback, saying that, wasn't allowed to go through. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen, one of the few countries in the world. I mean, look at those knuckleheads in England, right? People are going to prison for memes, and people are saying they hurt my feelings. Are you kidding me? Hurt your feelings? Like, what kind of world did you grow up in where you thought they hurt my feelings and I need to send somebody to jail for it? Get over it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this is the greatest country in the world. Think about it. Even X, Elon Musk, whether you like the guy or not, right? Think about it. He says he buys X to save free speech. $44 billion or something like that. And I don't think he's made his money back because don't care. But if you go on X, there are people bad-mouthing him constantly, and he allows it because he believes in free speech. How do you think you get to the truth? Just like at the Supreme Court, people make an argument. The president should not be allowed to fire somebody, even though he's the head of the executive branch. And really, Congress has no authority to limit that. How can they usurp the president of his power? Well, if they want to usurp their power and not make laws and let some administrative bureaucrat do that, well, maybe they can do that, or maybe they can't. Maybe if they really want to pass a law, they have to be able to go through the legislative process and actually pass a bill. You got Liam, but freedom of speech. Think about it. Things I say about, courts and judges. If I was in just about any other country in the world, certainly Britain, right? I wonder if I could get in trouble, that guy in Britain that sentenced that guy to 6 months in jail for the meme that hurt his feelings. And that guy sits up there with his righteous, pompous little ass thinking, you hurt these people's feelings and how dare you do this, and we know better and we got to protect everybody's feelings from being hurt. No. You don't have a right to not have your feelings hurt and offended. Unbelievable, right? So thank God we have the First Amendment to the United States, right? Think about it. And here it is. Our Amendment 1. I wonder why they made it first. Maybe because they thought it was the first most important thing when they were creating a new government, because they hated the king, right? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which means you can practice your religion. And we're not going to have a state-established religion. Doesn't mean they're getting God out of it. It just says you can't have a state-sponsored religion like they did in England at the time. Or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. What other country in the world has that so clearly stated out? Limitation on government. Make no law abridging freedom of speech. Government can't say, we're going to pass a law. We're going to pass a law because we're going to hurt people's feelings if you say that. People tried it. People got canceled for hurting people's feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, You don't have a right to not have your feelings hurt. And like I said, just like that Supreme Court engaging in that Socratic method, people come forth in their argument. The only way the truth comes out is if people actually engage and they support their argument, and people will see if it fails or if it stands up under scrutiny. That's how you know it's a valid argument. But just say, you can't do that because you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, and how dare you? That's not law. That's a dictatorship. That's scary as hell. And if people think that's okay, this is not going to be the right channel for you. I assure you of that, because we believe in free speech. I get people all the time call me an idiot. You know what you're talking about, Scott? My God, that's the worst haircut I've ever seen. You think I can't go in and delete that stuff if I wanted to? Well, I guess I could know how to figure out how to do it, but I don't, because you got to practice what you preach. If you think I'm the biggest idiot and you think I'm wrong, who knows? Maybe I'll see your statement. Maybe I'll say, you know what? I didn't consider that argument. I didn't consider that piece of evidence. Congratulations, you changed my mind. But if I deleted it and said, oh, this person, I'm not going to listen to what they say, ignore the facts, that's ridiculous. Not going to do it. Free speech, greatest country in America. We totally digress, ladies and gentlemen, but go read the Constitution, right? Have your phone app read you the Constitution. It'll probably take you about 10 minutes or less. It's that short. It's that important. Okay. And it is the fundamental rules in criminal law. And if you like true crime, you can't not love the Constitution. And just like our quote of the day, if you're going to be intellectually honest, you're not always going to get the result you want if you follow the Constitution. That's true. Oh, this is going to be good. Scott, I saw YouTube yesterday where the lady drove 3 hours to a guy's job and made him apologize live and threatened him if he didn't, she would send his wife his other YouTube address she found. Oh, jeez. Was she cheating on him or something? Oh, jeez. Apologize? Oh, my God. Oh, I hope you're feeling better, Mama Pink. It's like you're sick. Nothing is working. The amount of ibuprofen, acetaminophen, and Narcan it's taking me. I won't have a liver or kidney tomorrow. I hope you feel better. Do you like when murder trials best? Yes. Seems you still have a real passion for it. Yeah, I like the hard cases. I really do. Give me the worst of the worst, the hardest of the hard. Let me go make hay of it and see what we can do. And let me tell you this, and then I'll let you go. I promise I'll let you go. Frank's over here. My God, I thought he was just about done. All right. So remember, I think it was almost 2 years ago now, we did a human trafficking case. I was gone for a month. Okay. Gone for a month, month-long trial, absolutely exhausting. Missed stuff. The lovely Miss Kristen's twins were turning 21. I'm like, oh, I'll be done. I'll jump in Crime Talk 1. I'll be out to Vegas to celebrate with you guys. I'll be back by Monday. Piece of cake. Didn't happen. Just totally huge trial, huge trial. And I've told you this. I don't win all my cases. I could sit here and say, oh, I won everything. I don't. I've won some good ones. I really have, but I don't win everything because I get the difficult cases. In this case, it was a court-appointed case. It was a tough case. Bunch of counts of human trafficking and, habitual counts. It was just a bad case. Ultimately, client gets whacked for like 570 years or something like that. At the time, the DA said, Scott, you now hold the record for the highest sentence for a human trafficking case in the United States. And I said, hey, so do you. Anyway, of course, we were going to appeal. It was a travesty of a mockery of a sham. Evidence should have been suppressed. And he goes off to appeal. And, haven't really thought that much about it. But I get a call the other day from the appellate attorney. All right. And I'm thinking, Okay, here's the day it's going to get worse. This is when the appellate attorney calls and says, why did you do this? Why didn't you object to that? You know, basically saying you screwed the appeal. I'm like, oh, okay. Told my associate, Rod, get in here, man. I said, this is where he's going to tell me we screwed it up. And he said, I've been doing appeals for 30 years, not only here, but, you know, in New York. And he said, this was one of the most zealously represented cases I've ever seen. It's probably the best work I've ever seen from an attorney. You got the best appellate record here available. He was just singing my praises. I was like, oh my God. Like, you know, I was expecting to get thrown under the bus today because that's usually what happens. And I'm literally like, will you repeat that again while I start my phone so I can save that forever? Right. But he really meant, because we put a lot of time and effort in this, great issues. And I think we're going to make some good case law as it relates to searches of cell phones. Okay. So yeah, I do like it. I like the hard cases. I like the nasty cases. Give me the impossible case, right? Like we did one in May. I still, you know, should have lost. It was a drug case, conspiracy, wiretaps, confessions, co-defendants testifying, not guilty, right? Nobody thought we were going to win. Maybe I even didn't. But, you know, I had to say it. I'm pretty good at what I do. And unlike a lot of people on the YouTube, they've never tried a homicide case. They want to tell everybody how to try a homicide case, never done a racketeering case, never done a human trafficking case, but yet they sit there and critique everybody that does it. I mean, I get it. You can do it. Everyone's got to make a buck, right? But I like not to speak about things that I don't know too much about, right? What's that song by the Avett Brothers? God, I love the words to it. It's something to the effect of basically people talk about the words that people talk about all the stuff they know nothing about or something like that. It's a great song. I could find it and play it, but it's great. So I try to talk about things that I know something about. I mean, I can talk about things, all kinds of stuff. I give you my opinion for what it's worth, but I do know a little bit about criminal law. Am I perfect? No. Do I know all the answers? No. Do you still get surprised every day by this? Yes. And what I love about the job is it's never the same day twice. I never know what's going to happen. What do I hate about the job? It's never the same day twice. I never know what's going to happen. I think, oh my God, it's going to be a totally easy skate day. This is great. And then the phone rings and your day that you kind of all had planned out gets completely bumped because you got to go do something else that just happened. So yeah, I think I do still have a passion for it, but some days the clients, I'm not going to lie, wear me out. All right. And we also have to deal sometimes with the syndrome. I'll tell you this story and then we'll be done. The syndrome of TMM. Okay. It's spreading all across the land. It has affected younger generations. I think they will be forever harmed by it. They need to go run out in the dirt, play in the street, skin their knee, rub a little dirt on it, get over it. There's a disease out there called TMM, too much mommy. Okay. How can you recognize and spot TMM? Well, it's usually when it's a male defendant and mother and girlfriends are calling to ask questions. Mothers and girlfriends are looking to get an attorney. Mothers and girlfriends care more about the case than the defendant does. TMM. I guess it can be too much daddy as well, but mommy is usually the ones that do it. So moms, quit babying your kids out there. Let them skin their knee a little bit. Let them learn from their mistakes. It will do them so much better in the future. Don't protect them from everything. And I think I saw Avett Brothers, Full of Doubt. Let me see if I can find the lyrics for that. But it's a great song. It basically says, everybody talks about stuff they know nothing about. I try to limit, at least when I have some limited knowledge. And if I don't know it, I'll pull out the books. Let me just find these lyrics really quick, and then we'll leave it at that. All right. Avett Brothers, Head Full of Doubt, right? Yeah, I think that was it. I'd play it, but I'd probably get a content strike. And we don't want to get a content strike. Let's see. Dream, there's a darkness upon you that's flooded in light. They tell you what's wrong. They tell you what's right. And it flies by day and it flies by night. I'm frightened by those who don't see it. There a dream one day, I could see it. Like a bird in a cage, I broke in and demanded that somebody free it. And there was a kid with a head full of doubt, so I'll scream till I die. And the last of those bad thoughts are finally out. There was a dream, and one day I could see it. Like a bird in a cage, I broke in and demanded somebody free it. There was a kid, a head full of doubts. I'm frightened by those who don't see it. That's not, I thought it was something, everybody talks about something they don't know about. Well, I guess that's it. That's not it. Head full of doubt. Anyway, maybe I'll find it tomorrow. Did I not do that? Head full of doubt. But anyway, that's what it is. I mean, basically, everybody talks about everything they don't know nothing about. We try to talk about what we know about. I think you can kind of trust. You can trust me. You should trust me. I have no reason to lie to you. Why? I can't talk about my cases. I'd love to convince the world about my cases. Can't really talk about those. I can talk about other cases and say, this is what's going on. And mark my word, when have I really been wrong? I know. Karen Reed, I guess you could say. But the truth is coming out about that. And hell, for God's sakes, you can watch the video where she says she hit the guy, for God's sakes. I didn't think he was maimed, and maybe I just hit his knee, but you know, she was drunk. She hit him, for God's sakes. And that jury, we'll leave it at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, 10,000 words. Maybe that's it. Oh, yeah. 10,000 words. Let me see what that is. Just humor me, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, and now my phone is like frozen. 10,000 words. Avett, brother, lyrics, 10,000 words. Yeah. All right. And also, while I'm reminding you here to, okay, here it is. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Avett Brothers. These guys are poets, man. 10,000 words swarm around my head. 10 million more in books written beneath my bed. I wrote or read them all when searching in the swarms. Still can't find how old my hands. And I know you need me in the next room over, but I'm stuck here all paralyzed. For months, I got myself in ruts. Too much time spent in mirrors framed in yellow walls. Ain't it like most people? I'm no different. We love to talk on things we know nothing about. I ain't like most people. I'm no different. We love to talk about things we don't know about. So many people that do that. And if I don't know anything about it, I'll tell you. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. Go get your merch. Limited edition. Annika made them. Telling you, buy them. Thanks, Annika. Do it. Thank you, Frank, for staying late. Thank you, the lovely Miss Kristen, for being so patient with me. And thank you all for joining us. We know you had lots of things you could do. The fact that you're here, we appreciate it. Doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you much. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters. And if you don't believe that after tonight, I don't know what I can do to convince you. All right.